There comes a moment in every person's life when they look in the mirror and realize they've been living as a watered down version of themselves. A moment when the truth hits so hard it almost knocks the air out of your lungs. Not because you're weak, but because you're finally seeing your own potential without filters, without excuses, without the comfortable lies you've been telling yourself to survive. And that moment is either the beginning of your transformation or the beginning of your downfall. Because once you see who you could be, you can never pretend you don't know anymore. You can't unsee your own greatness. You can't unfeel that pull towards something bigger. You can't go back to sleep after you've tasted even a small breath of what your life could become. And that's exactly where you are right now, caught between two versions of yourself. The version that settles, stays quiet, stays afraid, stays loyal to the familiar, even when it's killing you slowly. And the version that's been screaming inside your chest, waiting for permission to break free, waiting for you to finally stop negotiating with your comfort and start fighting for your future. Most people never make that leap. They stay stuck in the same patterns, trapped in the same mental cages, telling themselves the same stories about why life isn't changing. They blame the world, blame their past, blame their circumstances, but they never dare to blame the one thing that actually holds the power: their mindset, their psyche, their inner world. Because the truth is brutal. Your life is nothing more than the physical reflection of the thoughts you repeat when no one's watching. You think average, you become average. You think small, your life shrinks with you. You think you're not enough, and life will prove you right every time. But the moment you flip the script, the moment you challenge the voice that says you can't, the moment you stop letting fear run your internal system, everything changes. Not slowly, not eventually, immediately. Because the mind is the operating system of your entire existence. Until you rewire it, nothing on the outside can transform. And let me tell you this, your psyche has been shaped by years of survival, disappointment, betrayal, pressure, doubt, noise, and expectations that were never yours to carry. You didn't choose those wounds, but now it's your responsibility to decide what you do with them. Do you let them control you, or do you rip them out at the root and build a mindset so strong it becomes your armor, your fuel, your weapon? This video is not just motivation. This is a psychological awakening, a call to break the invisible chains that have held you down for far too long, a challenge to confront the mental patterns that keep you small, a warning that if you don't take control of your mind will take control of your life. So lock in. Don't blink. Don't look away, because what you're about to hear is not meant to inspire you temporarily. It's meant to rewire the deepest parts of who you are. This is the moment everything changes, if you're brave enough to let it. Average is a choice, not a destiny. And the moment you understand that truth, your entire life begins to change. People walk around believing that some individuals are just born special, as if greatness is stitched into their DNA while the rest of the world is left with scraps. But that's a lie that keeps people small. The truth is this: average becomes your reality the moment you decide you're comfortable with where you are. Average walks into your life when you no longer fight for the next level. Average settles in when you stop pushing, stop stretching, stop demanding greatness out of yourself. Nobody wakes up one morning and suddenly realizes they become average. It happens slowly, quietly, through 1,000 small decisions where you tell yourself this is enough, even when your soul knows you were built for more. To understand how average becomes a choice, you must first recognize the power of your own agency. You are not a passenger in your life. You are not trapped by the circumstances you were born into or the mistakes you made along the way. Your destiny is not predetermined. Every day you wake up with the power to decide who you want to become and how far you want to go. But most people surrender that power. Most people hand their future to comfort, to fear, to excuses, to the opinions of others. They let life happen to them instead of shaping life with intention. They choose routines that are safe, cycles that are easy, and habits that demand nothing. And when you choose ease over evolution, comfort over challenge, familiarity over progress, you choose average without even realizing it. What separates you from greatness is not talent, luck, or some magical gift. It's the choices you make when nobody is watching. It's the choices you make when you're tired, when you're frustrated, when the results are slow, when the world isn't clapping for you. Average people break in those moments. They retreat, they complain, they negotiate their way out of responsibility. But those who rise, those who refuse to be average, they make a different choice. When it gets hard, they push harder. When it gets dark, they keep their eyes open. When everyone else says stop, they find another gear. They understand that average is the easiest path, but it comes with the heaviest price, regret. And regret will haunt you far longer than exhaustion ever will. You must look at your life honestly and ask yourself, where have you chosen average without even noticing? Maybe it's in the way you wake up, hitting snooze, rolling over, letting the day start without you. Maybe it's in the way you work, doing just enough to keep your place, but not enough to change your life. Maybe it's in your relationships, tolerating friendships that drain you, staying in circles that weaken you, entertaining people who keep you small. Maybe it's in your dreams, talking about them more than working on them, hoping for them instead of grinding for them. Average hides in the blind spots of your character. It sneaks into your discipline, your mindset, your attitude. And if you don't confront it, it becomes the ceiling you never break. The powerful thing is this, because average is a choice. You can unchoose it. You can reject it. You can decide today, right now, that you are done with mediocrity, done with living below your potential, done with shrinking yourself to fit inside a life that you've outgrown. The switch flips the moment you say, I'm not accepting this anymore. There's a different kind of fire that comes alive inside you. The moment you realize your life isn't determined by fate, but by the choices you make consistently. That's when you begin to walk differently, talk differently, think differently. You stop seeking approval and start seeking progress. You stop chasing comfort and start chasing growth. You stop doing what is easy and start doing what is necessary. Greatness doesn't require perfection. It doesn't even require extraordinary talent. It requires ownership. It requires responsibility. It requires a decision made every single day that you will not settle for the version of yourself that is convenient. You will chase the version of yourself that is exceptional, the one that scares you, the one that challenges you, the one that demands discipline, sacrifice, focus, consistency, resilience, and relentless effort. That version of you is waiting, but it won't come alive through wishes. It only comes alive through choices. You need to understand that every time you take the easy road, every time you skip the work, every time you choose the couch over your goals, every time you procrastinate, every time you break a promise to yourself, you are voting for the average version of you. You are casting a ballot for mediocrity. But every time you wake up early, stay late, push harder, study deeper, train longer, take responsibility, stay consistent, speak life into your goals, and refuse to quit, you are voting for greatness. You are voting for the highest version of yourself. And the version that wins is the one you vote for the most. Life will always offer you two paths, the path of ease and the path of elevation. One leads to being average. The other leads to being uncommon. And the road to uncommon requires everything from you. Your time, your discipline, your courage, your discomfort, your sacrifices. But it gives you something priceless in return. The ability to look in the mirror and say, I didn't settle. That feeling is worth more than anything average could ever give you. So understand this clearly. Average is a choice, but so is greatness. And the only question left is which one you're going to choose today, tomorrow, and every day that follows. Most people never rise above average for one simple reason. They cling to the habits that keep them small. They want greatness, but they refuse to let go of the daily behaviors, the routines, the comforts, and the thought patterns that work against them. It's like trying to sprint with weights tied to your ankles. You keep asking why you're not moving forward, but you're the one refusing to drop what's holding you back. If you want to escape the gravitational pull of mediocrity, you have to be brutally honest about the habits that are limiting you. Not the habits you show the world, not the ones you pretend you've mastered, the ones you do in private, the ones you think don't matter, the ones you justify because everyone does it, the ones that seem small but take your potential hostage. Some habits don't show their damage immediately. They work quietly like slow poison. You scroll for 10 minutes that turn into hours. You say, I'll start tomorrow for the 12th time. You skip the workout because you're tired. You pick convenience over discipline. You allow distraction to interrupt your goals over and over again. None of these decisions feel catastrophic in the moment. They feel harmless, but small choices compound. They compound into missed opportunities, wasted time, shattered confidence, broken momentum. They compound into a life where you wake up one day and wonder why you've been stuck in the same place for years, even though deep down you know why. The habits that keep you average are not accidents. They're patterns you've allowed. And if you don't break them, they become your identity. They become the story you tell yourself about who you are. I'm not consistent. I struggle with discipline. I always procrastinate. I'm just not focused. But those statements aren't truths. They're habits dressed up as personality traits. You aren't your habits. You just have habits that don't match the goals you say you want. And until you rewrite those habits, your results will never match your ambitions. The danger is that average habits feel good in the moment. They give you immediate comfort, immediate pleasure, immediate escape. Greatness habits feel uncomfortable at first. They require effort, sacrifice, energy, focus. That's why so many people stay trapped. They choose what feels good now instead of what feels right later. But that's the price of growth. You must trade short-term comfort for long-term elevation. You have to be willing to confront the parts of yourself that prefer easy paths and weak excuses. To break free from habits that keep you average, you must first understand how habits are formed. They are loops: cue, action, reward. You reach for your phone because your brain wants stimulation. You skip the gym because your body wants comfort. You delay your goals because your mind wants safety. None of these desires are wrong. They're human. But if you let those desires dictate your actions without resistance, you fall into cycles you can't escape. Changing habits requires interrupting those cycles. It requires awareness, catching yourself in the act and choosing differently. It requires replacing bad habits with ones that actually serve you. You cannot simply stop a bad habit. You must substitute it. If you stop scrolling but don't replace it with something productive, you'll scroll again. If you stop procrastinating but don't create a plan, you'll fall back into delay. If you stop avoiding discomfort but don't build discipline, you'll run from challenges again. Growth is not about removing habits. It's about upgrading them. One of the biggest habits that keeps people average is emotional decision making. Most people only work when they feel motivated. They only grind when they feel inspired. They only execute when they feel confident. That habit alone keeps millions stuck because feelings are inconsistent. Feelings are unreliable. Feelings change with weather, sleep, stress, mood, environment. If your habits depend on your feelings, you will always be inconsistent. And inconsistency is the mother of mediocrity. You cannot trust your feelings to build the life you want. You have to build habits that operate independently of emotions. That is how you rise above average. You act based on standards, not moods. Another habit that keeps people small is seeking validation. You do things for applause. You adjust your goals based on what others think. You hesitate because you fear judgment. This habit destroys potential more than failure ever will. When you build a life based on external approval, you will never be more than average because average is built on fitting in. Greatness requires standing out, going alone, choosing paths others don't understand. Breaking this habit demands courage. It demands that you trust your vision more than their opinions. It demands that you stop shrinking your dreams to make others comfortable. Another destructive habit is self-negotiation. You make deals with yourself every day. I'll rest now and work later. Just 5 more minutes. I'll skip today, but double tomorrow. These negotiations keep you stagnant. They train your mind to accept less from yourself. Breaking this habit requires enforcing non-negotiable standards, rules you will not break no matter how you feel. Winners don't negotiate with themselves. They decide once and then follow through relentlessly. But perhaps the deepest habit that keeps people average is the habit of thinking small. You underestimate yourself. You downgrade your dreams. You limit your potential because you bought into the belief that you're not capable of more. That belief becomes a habit. You see yourself through a lens of limitation. And as long as your mind is average, your life will be too. Breaking this habit requires feeding your mind with possibility, surrounding yourself with people who think bigger, and pushing yourself into environments that force growth. Breaking the habits that keep you average is not easy, but it is possible. And it starts with taking accountability. You must admit that you've allowed certain habits to control your life. You must face the truth that you could have been further by now if you had been more disciplined, more focused, more consistent. That honesty hurts, but that pain is necessary. It's the first step to rewriting your story. The moment you decide to break these habits is the moment your life begins to shift. You start waking up earlier. You start showing up consistently. You start choosing discipline over comfort. You start cutting out distractions. You start taking yourself seriously. Those changes may feel small at first, but they compound in the same way your bad habits did, except now they compound into progress, confidence, strength, momentum, and transformation. The day you stop feeding your average habits is the day you stop being average. And from that moment forward, your life can only move upward. The third truth you have to swallow if you say I ain't average is that your identity is the engine that drives every decision you make. You can change your habits for a week. You can wake up early for a few days. You can grind for a season. But if deep down you still see yourself as someone who breaks promises, someone who quits when it's hard, someone who settles when pressure rises, then that identity will pull you back to average like gravity. You cannot outrun the person you secretly believe you are. And that's why this step is so brutal. You must rebuild the way you see yourself, brick by brick, thought by thought, decision by decision, until the image in the mirror is no longer the weak version of you, but the unstoppable version. This is not motivation. This is reconstruction. This is demolition of an old identity and construction of one powerful enough to carry the life you keep saying you want. Most people don't understand that average isn't a level of performance. It's a mindset. It's a quiet belief that sounds like, this is good enough for me. I don't need to push harder. I'm not meant for more than this. I'll try again next year. At least I'm doing better than most people. That inner voice is the voice of an identity wrapped in comfort, wrapped in excuses, wrapped in survival instead of purpose. And if you don't confront that voice, it will sabotage every dream you try to build. You cannot build a mansion with the identity of a tenant. You cannot live like a lion with the identity of prey. You cannot rise to greatness with the identity of someone who is just trying to get by. Your identity sets the thermostat of your life. Even if you have a winning week, a powerful month, a productive season, if your identity is still average, it will turn the temperature back down. You'll self-sabotage. You'll procrastinate. You'll choose comfort. You'll make emotional decisions. You'll justify laziness. You'll go back to people who drain you. You'll return to habits that destroy you. Not because you're weak, but because your self-image doesn't match the level you were trying to reach. Changing your identity is not an overnight process. It starts with honesty so raw it burns. You have to stare at yourself, your real self, and admit the truth about who you've been, not who you pretend to be. Not who you post online, not who you tell people you are, who you've actually been when nobody watches. Are you disciplined or do you fold fast? Are you consistent or do you disappear? Are you hungry or do you get comfortable? Are you dependable or do you make excuses? These questions hurt because they expose the gap between your potential and your performance. But that pain is necessary. You cannot rise into a new identity without confronting the old one. Once you face the truth, the next step is to redefine the standards you live by. Not the goals you talk about, not the dreams you fantasize over. Standards, the non-negotiables, the rules you follow even when you're tired, bored, angry, stressed, heartbroken, or discouraged. Average people operate on emotion. Unaverage people operate on standards. Emotion says, I don't feel like it. Standards say, do it anyway. Emotion says, I'll try tomorrow. Standards say, right now. Emotion says, this is too much. Standards say, push harder. When your identity shifts, your standards rise with it. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop letting comfort control your actions. You stop allowing your feelings to dictate your future. You start acting like the person you claim to be. Identity shows in the tiniest moments. It shows when the alarm goes off. It shows when you feel tempted. It shows when the plan falls apart. It shows when nobody is clapping for you. It shows when the room is empty and the reward is far away. Your true identity isn't who you are on your best day. It's who you are when everything gets hard. That's where the real I Ain't Average is tested. Anybody can talk like a champion when they're inspired. Only someone who has shifted their identity can act like a champion when they're exhausted. You cannot fake that. You cannot pretend your way into that. That comes from inner transformation, not outer performance. The dangerous part of trying to rise without an identity shift is that you start chasing outcomes instead of becoming the person capable of maintaining those outcomes. You might get the job, but not keep the discipline. You might get into the relationship, but not keep the standards. You might build momentum, but not maintain consistency. And then you blame life, luck, people, timing. But the truth is simpler. The identity wasn't ready for the life you were trying to live. When you fix the identity first, the results come and stay. When you don't, the results come and collapse. So how do you actually shift your identity? You do it through repetition of decisions that match the person you want to become. You want to be disciplined? Make small decisions that prove it. You want to be consistent. Show up when no part of you wants to. You want to be mentally strong. Choose the harder option on purpose. Every day you cast votes for the identity you're building, not with words, but with actions, with disciplines, with habits, with sacrifices, with the way you respond to pressure. Identity is not built by motivation. It's built by evidence. And every day you decide what evidence you're stacking. When you finally build this identity, something powerful happens. You become dangerous to your old life. The things that once distracted you don't tempt you anymore. The people that once drained you don't interest you anymore. The habits that used to break you don't even feel like options anymore. You look in the mirror and you recognize a version of yourself you've never met before. Stronger, sharper, hungry, intentional, unshakable. And that's when I Ain't Average stops being a slogan and becomes your reality. Because greatness doesn't start with talent or luck. It starts with identity. The moment you change who you believe you are, you change what you're willing to tolerate. And when you change what you tolerate, you change your entire future. As we close this message, I need you to understand something deep, something most people never realize. Until life has already beaten them down, you don't rise by talking, wishing, or hoping. You rise by deciding. You rise by drawing a line in the sand and saying, I refuse to go back to the version of me that kept me small. Because you can hear every motivational speech in the world, but until you make that decision in your soul, nothing changes. And today, right now, this moment, you have a choice. Stay average or finally step into the identity you were meant for. And I'm not talking about being perfect, being flawless, being superhuman. I'm talking about being the version of you that stops running from responsibility, stops hiding behind excuses, stops accepting comfort as a lifestyle, and refuses to let fear decide the limits of your life. You're not here by accident. You didn't click this video out of boredom. You clicked it because something inside you is tired. Tired of settling, tired of pretending, tired of shrinking, tired of living a life that doesn't match the fire inside you. And that tiredness is not weakness. That tiredness is your awakening. That tiredness is the universe pulling you by the shirt saying, enough, wake up, rise up, it's time. You've been fighting battles nobody knows about, carrying weight nobody appreciates, enduring pain nobody sees. And still, you're here, still listening, still searching, still wanting more. That alone proves one thing. There is greatness inside you that refuses to die, no matter how long you've starved it. But hear me clearly. Greatness doesn't survive on intention. It survives on action. It survives on sacrifice. It survives on the days when you feel empty, but show up anyway. And if you want to separate yourself from average, if you want to become someone your past self would be proud of, you have to make decisions that scare you, challenge you, stretch you, strip you, break you, rebuild you. You have to stop letting the world distract you. Stop letting people drain you. Stop letting doubt paralyze you. Stop giving energy to things that don't feed your purpose. Your life is too short. Your potential is too real. And your future is too important to waste another minute living like everyone else. So let this be your turning point. Let this be the moment you walk away from the old mindset, the old habits, the old fears, the old excuses. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Decide that you are done living at the level you've been tolerating. Decide that average is beneath you. Decide that your dreams deserve the version of you that doesn't quit. And when you walk away from this video, I want you to walk away different. Not because I said something powerful, but because you finally felt something powerful inside yourself. Because you finally understood the world doesn't need another average person. The world needs you, fully unleashed, fully focused, fully committed. And the moment you choose that version of yourself, everything in your life will change